FSC, FSC has launched a construction materials supplier database at buildwithfsc.org. And this now includes more than 700 FSC certified materials suppliers to the building industry. We're looking now to partner with other online materials exchanges to make it even easier for North American AEC professionals, product manufacturers, and DIY consumers to find and buy FSC certified construction materials, which is probably the most important forest products value chain for FSC today. And again, this is a fairly pioneering effort to make it easier for demand to find supply. Finally, I wanted to mention that in terms of targeting the right types of consumers, as part of our One Simple Action campaign last year, we created a range of digital advertising ads, carefully targeting them at US consumers that have been identified as being most likely to respond to an FSC-centric message. And this campaign delivered surprisingly outsized results for a relatively small budget. We're now refining this online target segment of about 46 million FSC-minded consumers, which we will now offer to corporate brand partners for use in their own sustainability-oriented campaigns. We believe this will make our partners' marketing efforts more effective at driving sales, which we know is important if we want to see more sustainability-oriented, sustainability-leading value propositions put in front of consumers. And none of this has been done at FSC anywhere in the world, nor to our knowledge by any other product certification. So we believe we're breaking some fairly new ground here. The last thing I wanted to share is that at FSC, we're certainly seeing a dramatic increase in the level of interest on the part of corporations in leveraging FSC trademarked assets in their own consumer-facing communications. And this is exemplified by the growth in our trademark license portfolio. You can see that in the last 3 years, especially, we've seen exponential growth, and our growth is expected to continue to increase exponentially yet again in 2022. So with that, I'm going to now pass the baton to Jason Walters from GlobeScan so he can present the specific results of the most recent consumer study with a focus on North America. And before I do that, I also wanted to mention that there is a Q&A function in this webinar, and we encourage folks to use it. There will be time at the end of the presentation to address all the questions that participants would like to ask myself or any of the other panelists. So with that, I will thank you and pass it on to Jason.
All right. Thanks, Chris, very much. It's really great to see all the great work that FSC is doing, particularly on your consumer marketing, the e-commerce initiative, which I think is really great and groundbreaking too. Yeah, and the other pieces that you're doing. So we're really excited about that and happy to be able to partner and support the work that FSC is doing. So I will go through everyone, and hi everyone. Thanks very much for attending the session. It's great to see the good turnout. I'll go through the research that we did on behalf of and with FSC last year and show you what the results are. And I think they're very strong in terms of the recognition and trust that FSC is building in North America and around the world as well. So just a bit of background on the methodology that we have here. This research was done in the form of online consumer research panels that were conducted in July of 2021. We have a pretty large, robust sample size of 12,000 respondents across 15 countries. So that's 800 respondents per country. And then we've covered a combination of markets that we have surveyed before. So this is a survey that we've kind of continued and updated. We had conducted it earlier in 2017. So we have some tracking data and we expanded it in 2021. So if you're looking at this slide, the orange markets are the ones that were tracked and were also done in 2017. And the green ones are new markets that were added for 2021. So we'll move next into what we're seeing in terms of the top issues of concern to consumers. So this data looks at global. As Chris had said, we're focusing on the North America piece, but we do have a bit of a mix of global and North American data. So this one looks at the results that we're seeing across our global sample. And it looks at what are the issues broadly that are most worrying to consumers. So as you can see, what really stands out here, it's not surprising to see disease and health issues at the top of the list, considering with everything that we've seen around COVID and the pandemic, and just how important health is overall. But right behind health is climate change, so which is probably not surprising too, but clearly at the top of people's minds and in the context of everything else that's out there too, which really stands out. And then you'll see a little bit farther down the list, we have biodiversity and deforestation, which are a little bit farther down this list. But when you look at what they're compared to, I think the numbers are still strong, and this makes sense in terms of what we would expect to see. What's also really important here is that the increase in the interest in climate change. So you can see the tracking results for Canada and the US, and there's a really strong increase for Canada from 30 to 45% of people who put climate change as one of their top 3 concerns overall. And for the US, 26 to 35% from 2017 to 2021. All right, so this next slide dives into the forest issues in particular, and it looks at what are the threats you're most concerned about when it comes to forest in terms of the impacts on forest, the wildlife living in forest, and then the people who are also living in forest. And what stands out really here, this is again global data 2021. What stands out really here are the top 3 issues that we're looking at, which are deforestation, but also again the close tie into climate change and the impact in forest, and the loss of plant and animal species or biodiversity. Those are the top 3 issues that we're really focused on, and as we'll see, those issues are connected closely in terms of how consumers are thinking about them, in terms of the value that they're getting out of FSC. And it's also worth noting here that biodiversity is the top issue in both Canada and the US, as well on an individual country basis. And wildfires are also something that stands out as important in the US, which also has a strong connection to deforestation clearly. And also just for, it's also interesting to note that today's world is Wildfires Day as well. All right. So from here, we'll move on to the really consumer attitudes, actions, and purchase drivers. And we're looking at these in terms of 2 categories, wood products and forest products as well. So when we get into that, we see here, this slide that we're looking at shows the support for sustainable forestry broken down into the reasons that consumers think about purchasing products. And the reasons that they support FSC. So this is North American data. And I think what stands out here is really, one, we see biodiversity again at the top, which is consistent with our other numbers. But what's really important here is the importance of certification and an independent organization. So you'll see at number 3 in the list, the information about sustainability on products should be certified by an independent organization is what 74% of the respondents conclude or want to see. And they also, and 70% of our respondents believe that independent certifications can help them is a way that they can on their own help to protect forests too. So clearly there's a strong connection in consumers, in the credibility that consumers want to see from a third-party certification and what they think they're doing through purchasing the certification or purchasing products with the FSC certification on them. Okay, so from here, we'll look at what do people value when they're choosing wood and paper products specifically. And the next one, the slide that we show here, so this is a little bit different and a little bit more complicated analysis than some of the things we do. So this is a max differential analysis, which you don't need to know all the ins and outs of that, but just suffice it to say that it's really used to really help distinguish issues where there's a lot of issues are important to help show which ones really rise to the top and how they compare relative to one another, what's their relative strength. So that's what we've used to rank these criteria when it comes to deciding on products. And you'll see they're grouped into 3 categories of conventional purchase drivers, sustainability focused purchase drivers, which are the ones that tie clearly directly to FSC, and then the origin or the sourcing indicators. And it's very clear that the sustainability focused drivers focusing on forest really comes to the top when we're talking about this category of wooden products, which includes furniture, toys, flooring, home products. So the protection of plants and animals, where wood comes from and sourced from responsibly managed forests, are in 2 of the top 3 items here, and you'll see that they even come out ahead of other conventional purchase drivers. And again, it's not necessarily a one-to-one in terms of how these fall out, but it is very indicative that these are very strong drivers of purchase decisions in this category. So the next one does the same analysis, looking at North America, but it focuses on the paper and card products category. And we see a similar story here, really. The protection of plants and animals where paper comes from and sourcing from responsibly managed forests still come out right at the top of the important purchase drivers for consumers when they're looking to buy paper and card products. All right, so our next slide looks at the specific demand for independent certification in each of the markets we're looking at. So we have a global number here, and then we also have specific numbers for the USA, or percentages for the US and Canada. And you can see here that, again, as we've seen a little bit earlier, there's very strong kind of importance placed on products carrying an independent certification. So globally, the interest in that is 76%. In the USA, it's 75%. In Canada, it's 72%. You can see in our tracking numbers from 2017 to 2021, these percentages have all increased significantly across in North America and globally as well. Okay, so from here, we'll move to recognition and trust in FSC. So this slide shows a very good finding that the awareness of FSC has increased substantially, really, since 2017 in both Canada and the US. So the numbers show for the top 2 box of having seen the FSC label often or occasionally, that number is increased from 36% of respondents to 46% of respondents in Canada. And it's gone from 34% to 40% in the US. And these numbers, it's important to note that these are actually quite strong numbers in terms of what we've seen compared to other certifications. In some cases, the numbers can be a little bit lower than they might be actually in practice, just due to the nature of the research and the recall and how that works when we're asking people these questions. All right, so from here, we move into the trust in FSC. And this sort of slide 2 is also a little bit more complicated. So it's important to see that this is net trust. So it's the net that you get for respondents that have rated having FSC complete confidence or a lot of confidence in the role of FSC or the role of these actors in contributing to protecting forests, minus the percentage of respondents who have little or no confidence in them. So when we do this net positive trust across the different actors that are listed here for FSC versus charities and NGOs versus certifications generally, individuals, companies, brands, and governments, FSC clearly comes out at the top, which is really significant because they're saying, the people who review this are saying that they trust FSC and the label to protect forests more than these other actors, and also significantly more than other certifications generally. And these are the results for Canada. And the next slide will show the results for the US. So for the US side, the results are basically the same. The ranking is the same. FSC comes out ahead and significantly ahead of other certifications. And also worth noting is that the overall percentage here, so of complete confidence and a lot of confidence, which are both very strong, is, if I can do the quick math here, 52%. And then when you add in moderate confidence, you've got 89%. So really people that are confident in the value of FSC to protect forest is a very high percentage of 92% total. The next slide here is one that we do. It's called a drivers analysis that really shows what drives trust and relates that to the level of concern that people have in each issue here. So the level of concerns on the y-axis, so the higher the higher the level of concern. The trust is on the x bottom axis. So again, the farther up the right, the higher level of trust. And these are in terms of what drives trust in FSC. So you'll see here at the top, the issues that we've seen already matter most to consumers in terms of how they connect to forest and protecting forest, biodiversity, climate change, and then deforestation itself come out clearly in the top right corner. And what's great is those are also the factors that are driving the most trust in FSC. So clearly when you're using the FSC label, it's really important is you're not only looking at the very important issue of deforestation, but you're also tapping into consumers that are looking to protect or help to prevent climate change and help to prevent loss of biodiversity and plant species as well. So the last slide we've got for you here is just the strong levels of advocacy and purchase impact that FSC has. So the first one here is what I think is one of the really the better, stronger indicators of how people regard and look at FSC and other certifications is that would they recommend FSC certified products to friends and family? And 38% definitely would, 31% probably would. Again, this is North America, so Canada and the US combined. So that's a total of 69% in the top two box, which is again, very, very strong results. In moving down the list, we've got how much difference does FSC make in terms of choosing a product of the same category and type? And it makes a lot of difference. Again, the top two box here is 75% too, would definitely or probably choose an FSC certified product over a similar non-FSC certified product. And the last one is the one that's always the trickiest one. Would you pay more for an FSC certified product? So no surprise that this is a little bit lower, but still very strong numbers. So here also 51%, the top two box say that they would pay more. It's probably not a lot more. We have to be realistic about what it is, but just the fact that they say they would is a pretty significant result.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Jason, for your review of those results. Again, I just want to remind participants that feel free to use the Q&A section to ask questions and we'll address them at the end. The next presenter I'd like to give the mic to is Elena Bliemel from HP. She heads up environmental stewardship and is going to speak to us a little bit about how HP leverages FSC in their sustainability strategies and how they're working with FSC to help make consumers more aware of their purchasing choices when it comes to forest-based products. So with that, Elena, I will give the floor to you.
Thank you, Chris. So my name is Elena Bliemel. I am HP Environmental Stewardship Program Manager for Forests. And today we're going to touch on how HP helps FSC increase consumer awareness. Next slide, please. This slide demonstrates the role of forests in HP's sustainability strategy. HP aspires to become the world's most sustainable and just technology company. Our long-term sustainability strategy is concerned with human rights, growing digital equity, and climate action. These three focus areas are designed to help create the future that we all need to sustain human life. As the name implies, HP Climate Action is focused on climate change mitigation. By reducing carbon emissions and driving circularity are only part of this equation. HP Forest Positive Vision is a big part of HP's ambition for climate. HP believes that investing in forests and nature-based solutions can deliver positive climate mitigation impacts while equally delivering on human well-being and benefits to nature. Our forest-related nature-based solution activities fall in 3 categories: restoration, protection, and improved forest management. In 2019, we've pledged to put over 200,000 acres of plantation forests under FSC and transition them to improved forest management with our NGO partner, WWF, expert in forest science. Realizing the long-term climate, social, and nature benefits of nature-based solution actions, like improved forest management, depends on protecting and improving forest ecosystems' health. HP is supporting case studies, assessing approaches to effectively monitor and measure the benefits of improved forest management and FSC certification in China. This includes exploring opportunities to pilot the FSC Ecosystem Services Protocol with forest farms and sponsoring WWF's efforts to develop and implement manuals for sustainable plantation forest management that will focus on conserving biodiversity in alignment with FSC principles. Future manuals will focus on carbon sequestration, economic viability, and social issues and outcomes. Next slide, please. Oh, you kind of jumped through one. Can you back up a little?
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Not there, but that's all right. I can talk to it.
Oh, well, this is the next slide that we have. Did I miss one, or is it possibly this one?
Yeah. No, that's the consumer awareness in China. That's okay. That's all right. We can speak through this one. It's consumers want to be good to Earth. Just wanted to talk a little bit how consumers view their drive to be green and what's perceived as green by consumers. HP has done some investigations, and through our research, it appears that 85% of consumers think that everyone has a personal obligation to be environmentally responsible, and they are concerned for the environment. 77% of consumers believe that individual sustainable actions can have global impact, and 67% are interested in finding out how they can help the environment. So what's perceived as green by consumers? No straws, no plastic bags, recycling, meatless days, vegan lifestyle, all these activities and initiatives that people the goals that they set up for themselves, they all are targeted and demonstrate towards, they're targeted towards alleviating climate change, and they demonstrate that people do care about sustainability, they care about forests, and intuitively, consumers connect deforestation with climate change. They want to do the right thing, and they want to be part of the action. This said, we're yet to see green purchasing habits catching up with green aspirations. Pandemic, economic uncertainty, and somewhat consumer skepticism lead to significant gap in the number of environmentally aware customers who want to be part of the solution for climate, and customers who actually follow through with their wallets. Customers can be skeptical about eco-logos and certifications. As to FSC, according to one HP-focused study group, consumers are yet to become more aware of what FSC and other forestry certifications stand for. To make green choices easy for our shoppers, nearly all HP papers are certified today and labeled on pack, because today we are finding out that actually companies are expected to take the responsibility for providing accessible green solutions and make them affordable for our customers. Therefore, we're certifying most of our paper-based solutions and wood-based products with FSC. That's our preferred certification scheme. And in 2020 and 2021, we have supported a digital marketplace, consumer awareness campaign, One Simple Action that connects manufacturers, consumers, and channel partners. And that's it. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, okay. And here you can actually see, even though our webinar today is focused on US, because of our FSC certification efforts are huge in China, it's a great opportunity to raise FSC awareness with consumers and promote sustainable consumption in that country. Here on this slide, you can see ad promoting sustainable forestry in Shenzhen Airport metro train that serves 6 domestic airlines. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Elena. With that, we're going to move on to David Williams, who is a Corporate Social Responsibility Manager at Williams-Sonoma and a longtime partner of Forest Stewardship Council here in the United States. Go ahead, David.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks for having me. I'm David Williams, Corporate Social Responsibility Manager at Williams-Sonoma, Inc. I'm also a board member of the FSC US Board of Directors. I've been with Williams-Sonoma for almost 14 years. The sustainability department is embedded in our sourcing organization, but we support corporate level initiatives as well as initiatives for each individual brand. I'm focused primarily on environmental sustainability of our company, our products, and our suppliers. For those who don't know our company, Williams-Sonoma is a US-based retailer of high-quality home goods and furniture with a family of brands, Williams-Sonoma, Williams-Sonoma Home, Pottery Barn Kids and Teen, West Elm, Rejuvenation, and Mark and Graham. We operate in the US, Puerto Rico, Canada, Australia, and UK, and we have our own manufacturing in the US. For upholstered furniture in North Carolina, Mississippi, and in California. I'm excited to be here today to talk about consumer perceptions and sustainability. Much of what has been shown today really aligns with what we're seeing in the retail marketplace, and we're hearing from our customers. Our company philosophy has always been to bring our customers joy and exceed their expectations with our designs and quality products. We think of sustainability as a key differentiator for our company and a major component of the quality that our customers expect from our products. And we know that traditional retail is changing, and the company is actively looking for ways to make our business a force for positive social and environmental benefit. We call this being good by design. As a company, we've been on a sustainability journey for over a decade. In 2016, we set some ambitious targets that are public facing, 100% responsibly sourced cotton and 50% responsibly sourced wood in our furniture by 2021. We're working on a 2021 impact report now, and we plan to publish this this summer. But I'm glad to say we're very close to hitting our cotton goal, and we've exceeded our wood goal. Over 25% of our responsibly sourced wood is FSC certified, but we can't rest on our laurels. Our work up to this point has helped set a foundation, but now we see that these separate and distinct initiatives need to converge to achieve our most ambitious target yet. Climate change is a critical issue for Williams-Sonoma, Inc. And last year, we set a science-based target for the company to reduce our carbon emissions in our own operations by 50% and in our supply chain by 14% by 2030. And this new target will require that we deepen our commitments to responsibly sourced materials and social responsibility throughout the supply chain. responsible forestry and improved land management is a key part of that strategy. Certification is really a cornerstone for us for our responsibly sourced materials approach. We're a home furnishings retailer, and we're not experts on every aspect of responsible forest management. And we don't expect our customers to take our word for it that we're doing the right thing. In the early days of my career, I spent a lot of time evaluating forest certifications. I've traveled the world and visited forests, certified and non-certified, both in my own backyard in California, as well as all the way in the tropics, in tropical forests in Malaysia and Indonesia. And seeing the social and environmental impacts of FSC firsthand has really made me a believer in the value and the credibility of the FSC system. And since those early days, FSC has long been our gold standard for wood certification. And we also have a preference for FSC in our products. Some of our best-selling furniture collections are FSC certified, and our brands are becoming a destination for our customers looking for products made with responsibly sourced materials. We created shop paths on our brand websites to make it easy for customers to find certified products. But we've also found that customers who come to us for our designs and quality may not know about the social and environmental benefits of our materials. When they learn that on our websites, these attributes really become a selling point and increase their intent to purchase or reinforce their decision to purchase and increase their loyalty to the brand and the company. We need to increase this raising of awareness with our customers and the public in general about the benefits of FSC. As GlobeScan's reporting has shown, customers are increasingly concerned about climate change, and they're voting with their dollars to support companies that align with their own values. I'm excited about this research. There's additional research that FSC is undertaking to calculate the carbon benefits of responsible forest management practices. And I think it's this type of research that will really help take FSC's marketing to the next level in terms of promoting FSC certification as best in class, not just for protection of high conservation values, water, biodiversity, and indigenous people's rights, but also for climate change mitigation. And for my company to achieve our climate goals and to achieve our science-based target by the end of this decade, we have to continue to push for more responsibly sourced materials in our products. And FSC is a big part of our strategy. By supporting FSC, we believe that we can continue to bring our customers along in our journey by providing them with products that will allow us to achieve our science-based target and that are truly good by design. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to any questions anyone has.
Thanks very much, David. It does look like we do have some questions, and I would like to start by asking Elena and David. The data shows substantial increase in interest in FSC over the past 5 years. Elena and David, does your sense of the landscape bear this out? What are you seeing in the market, and how does this manifest in the way your organization operates?
I can jump in. Yeah, I think GlobeScan's findings are very similar to what we're seeing on the retail side. Customer awareness of environmental issues have become much more sophisticated. I also think the urgency of climate change is impossible to ignore. And when it comes down to it, I think customers want products that they feel good about. And I think the FSC message is a powerful tool to convey our company's commitment to not just lower our impact, but to create positive change.
Yeah, I concur. In the past 3 years here at HP, we have definitely noticed that nearly all bids and tenders that involve forest products now include questions on certification, and specifically FSC certifications, among other environmental criteria. And HP marketing also signals that eco attributes that include FSC certification is that last nudge that consumers need to make choice in HP brand favor. Therefore, FSC certification becomes a brand differentiator and something that helps our consumers and helps our customers, helps our company to stay relevant.
Great. Okay, thanks. Another question here. Please discuss more about the demographic of GlobeScan respondents. How were respondents found or accessed? How many, for example, were already sustainability conscious and educated? Maybe Jason, you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. This is a good question. I did respond quickly in the chat, but for this one, so we do a sample plan for each specific country market, and that sample plan is meant to be representative of the overall population of each of those markets. And then we work with a partner to source respondents, or to make sure that the respondents that actually fill out the survey align with that sample plan as much as possible. And we do not have, we're agnostic about whether those people are more interested or have a higher level of sustainability consciousness, which was part of the question. Although it is possible that people who fill out the survey choose to fill out the survey or stick with it because they are somewhat more interested in sustainability. And the other piece of that is just that in certain markets, in developing markets in particular, China, India, Colombia, Chile, Mexico, South Africa, and Turkey, there is some skewing towards more educated and urban consumers.
Got it. Okay, thanks very much. And I do note that we are answering questions in writing in the Q&A, as well as answering them over the air. Do you want to speak briefly, Jason, to Brian's question about biodiversity, wildlife, just in case participants haven't seen that in the Q&A?
Yeah, sure. That's a good one too. The direct answer is we don't break out distinguish between the loss of animal species versus the loss of plants, although it could be interesting and relevant to do so. And the supposition that there could be a higher level of concern, more of an emotional connection to animals, and that may relate, or you may want to think about that in terms of your consumer. And imagery, I would say, makes sense to me, but I don't have the data one way or the other.
Okay, thanks. And I do see a couple more open questions, so I'm going to address them because I think I'm probably the best person to answer, though anyone can add in if they have something to add. What are the benefits for a company to get the FSC certification versus a B Corp? What are the main differences? Well, the first thing I would say in response to this is that I consider B Corp certification and FSC certification to be complementary to each other, as opposed to one or the other. A B Corporation certification is designed to identify a company as being in line with environmental, social, and governance standards that B Corporation attempts to kind of codify and formalize so that it's easy for consumers and business media and investors and other stakeholders to identify that they have those values. And within that construct, the B Corp construct, FSC certification, if you're a manufacturer of a forest-based product, means that you're doing you're adhering to what is the global gold standard for ensuring that the forest products, the materials that you're using in your manufacturing, are coming from well-managed forests that are being managed to protect all these values, whether it's that we've been talking about today, whether it's clean water, biodiversity, the preservation of habitat, et cetera. And so, yeah, the answer for me is that FSC certification and B Corp certification should be thought of as complementary to each other. And I hope that's a decent answer. And with that, I think I'm going to move on to the next question in the interest of time. Are there other case studies or examples of effective marketing of FSC products to consumers or business to business, especially for smaller organizations without major brand recognition or developed marketing programs? Yes, the answer is yes, and I would be happy to make some of those examples available to attendees. I think, you know, one of the things that generally is true is that FSC, as the, you know, as I mentioned earlier, being the global gold standard in forest-based products and forest management, makes it not necessarily ubiquitous, right? Like, if you are a seller of FSC, regardless of where you might be in a supply chain, whether you're a forest owner or a primary manufacturer or a secondary or tertiary manufacturer or a consumer goods manufacturer, you need to be always aware of the importance of marketing FSC in, you know, in the way that you're going to market in such a way that the FSC centric or the FSC sensitive buyer is going to find you and is going to make the decision to purchase from you. And so that's really the key consideration. I see another question here. How would you compare FSC, PEFC, and SFI certifications? You know, generally FSC tries not to go head to head in open forums like this about the differences between our certification and other certifications such as the ones mentioned. But what I think is probably safe to say in this forum is that FSC enjoys the endorsement of the world's most respected and trusted environmental groups, which is a distinction over those other certifications. And I think, you know, part of the reason for that is not only because of the rigor of our standards, but also because of the transparent and democratic nature of the way FSC itself is governed. We have a three-chambered system: environmental, social, and economic chamber members, each with 1/3 voting authority over, you know, not only what's in our standard, but also how our organization runs itself. And it is a member-driven organization that anyone can join, be it individual or organization. So I think, you know, those are the key distinctions between us as a certification and other certifications. But at the end of the day, the marketplace determines, you know, the effectiveness of these different approaches. And it is corporate partnerships like the ones we enjoy with HP and Williams-Sonoma that I think are the most indicative of where FSC stands in the marketplace relative to other certifications in our space. I am looking for additional, okay, so I see another question here. FSC is much more detailed and prescriptive in nearly all aspects considered for forest certification. In particular, we find that most of the elements considered in the FSC Principle 6 are either only superficial or not addressed at all in the other 4 programs. Furthermore, the other programs appear to be less comprehensive and detailed in the substance of the FSC monitoring and assessment principles. I appreciate that comment. And I think it does kind of provide a greater level of detail into some of the comments I was making earlier. Okay, I have a couple more questions. A lot of questions coming in now. How do the current print and packaging materials supply chain challenges impact innovation in FSC products? That's a really interesting question. I think, you know, FSC supply in packaging is usually a challenge that has to be overcome by our corporate partners. Elena or David, is there anything that you'd like to say in response to this particular question?
Yeah, this is a challenge, definitely, because, for example, for a corporation like HP, packaging supply chain is completely separate from our printing materials supply chain, and that leads to quite a bit of resource allocation. But you know, at the end of the day, the biggest challenge is definitely with packaging, because from what we're finding out today is that packaging suppliers are not completely bought in on the idea of certifying packaging products. because the overall presumption in packaging industry that they have to transition to recycled content in their packaging as high, to the highest extent possible. And very often they do dismiss sustainable forest sustainable sourcing of the virgin portion of fiber that is in packaging. And we actually do speak annually at Smithers Pyra conference. That's packaging conference that takes place all over the globe. And we try to promote the importance of sustainable benefits of fiber, of sustainably sourced fiber in packaging. But yeah, it's been an ongoing journey. We've been on it for 5 years. The tides are turning, but we're not there yet.
Excellent. Okay.
Similarly, sorry, just to jump in, Elena's way more familiar with packaging than I am. Our products are manufactured by contract manufacturers overseas, and they have the direct relationship with packaging. We have some specification requirements for packaging itself. But again, I think we also see issues in supply chains where we don't have direct influence with some of the suppliers. The relationship is outside of our control. So similarly, it's difficult to change a supply chain that's embedded, or the packaging supply chain. Also, we've had issues where we want packaging in certain markets, and those markets may not have printing capabilities with FSC certification available. So we've seen some of that as well on our side. But it is certainly something we hope to change. We have a little more control on our brand package products, where we manufacture, our vendors manufacture the product, and the internal package, the box or the hang tag is to our specification. We do have a preference for FSC, but it is quite a challenge.
Thanks, David. There was a question asked that I responded to in writing, but I thought it was a really good question. The question was, is FSC certified acreage growing fast enough to supply a rapid increase in the FSC demand? And my answer to that is that it's very difficult for FSC to address that in a definitive sense, because the answer is going to vary significantly from one forest products value chain to another. The dynamics of supply and demand are also going to vary by geography. But in general, what FSC is always striving to do is to balance demand and supply roughly equivalently. And also, I would say that there is currently enough certified forest land, certainly, to cover demand across all forest products value chains. The trick is, I think, when you get into specific value chains and specific geographies, like, are there certified supply and suppliers of the right kinds, offering the right types of services, materials, et cetera? And David's nodding his head, so I think I'm saying the right things, but David, feel free to chip in if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Yeah, I definitely echo it's depends on the geography, depends on the species even, and the quality of wood. We've seen issues where certain species might not be available in FSC. We've had to look for alternatives. But I'd say you're right. There is enough availability out there. And it's really building those relationships with the suppliers so they're actively aware of what you're asking for, what you're expecting, and keeping that messaging, or keeping the supply chain aware of what's coming in terms of projecting collections or furniture volumes, so that they can anticipate that and purchase early. So there is enough out there. It's just making sure you have it at the right time and the right quality and the right species.
Yeah, yeah. Another question here I'd like to address on the call. Has there been any studies done regarding pricing? Many years ago, there was research done in a retail environment which allowed for consumers to choose a product with an FSC story that was more expensive. And it demonstrated that consumers were actually willing to pay more rather than just stating that they might in a survey. That is an excellent question. And the answer is yes, there have been additional studies done regarding pricing specifically. As you say, anonymous attendee, that study did indicate that a majority of consumers were willing to pay more. And I think, the key that I try to communicate when I'm working with our corporate partners about consumer-facing communications is to understand that if you hope to be able to successfully charge a premium for the FSC product, you have to try to make sure that the consumer has an opportunity to get the story. Because if they don't know the FSC story, they're not going to appreciate the FSC label. The FSC story isn't that complicated to tell, but it does have a few key components. They have to know that forests are at risk around the world, here in the US as well, by the way. They have to understand that FSC is effective at protecting, safeguarding forests and all that forests do for humanity and for biodiversity. And they have to understand that if they make that purchasing decision to buy FSC, that they're participating as a consumer in the solution for the protection of forests for everyone for all time. And so that's really the story that needs to be told. And if consumers get that story, yes, the data shows that time and time again, they are willing to pay more. And I expect that type of a trend to continue to become more powerful over time as climate change becomes more and more of an obvious problem for all of humanity. Let's see here. I do have another question I think is worth answering in the couple minutes we have left. Trust is difficult to gain, but easy to lose. How resilient is the FSC reputation? I feel that, and this is me speaking as the markets person for FSC US, but certainly the scrutiny of FSC is outsized as a certification relative to other global certifications. And part of the reason why is because we are the most trusted. We're the ones that enjoy that endorsement from the world's most respected environmental organizations. And we're the ones that have the most corporate relationships, wherein those corporations are putting their trust in FSC. So I think because of that, and because we are open and transparent by nature, we do tend to be subjected to more scrutiny. And there are occasionally articles that uncover challenges in the FSC system. We definitely feel that those types of articles are usually indicative of the challenges that FSC faces and continually works to overcome in regard to the robustness of our system. Every time we see those types of articles, we investigate, we try to understand how and whether we're in a position to be able to improve the system to overcome the things that are being pointed out. And I would also point out that FSC is a system wherein participants are disciplined and sometimes even disassociated from the system if they're not compliant with FSC. And we're very clear about that. So I think that's an important distinction to make as well. We are open to these types of criticisms, and we adjust as a system to continue to get better and better. So with that, I believe we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank all of the participants, Jason, David, and Elena. Thank you so much for your time. And to encourage everyone to visit onesimpleaction.org or us.fsc.org for more information. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Take care.